Live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we got to make sure the tubes are tubed, connected to one another, before we can get into the meat and potatoes. And of course, we're all hungry for that. We want to do it. And it looks like it's working, so let's get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Donald Trump and his DMs. Man, the feds got his DMs. We learned about this from an unsealed opinion that came out of the Court of Appeals, and this was involving the battle between Twitter and Jack Smith, the federal prosecutors. And so we do have that coming up. Unsealed new filings that show that they got a search warrant, and they not only got Trump's DMs, but also the drafts that never went out. So, you know, on Twitter or X now, you can type something and delete it. They got it. So we're going to go through that. We've got reaction from Kellyanne Conway and Senator Ted Kennedy, who calls this whole thing a zombie apocalypse. And he's right about that. All coming up. But we're going to start off with some updates about Big Fani and what's happening in Georgia. She has submitted a scheduling brief, so they want to get this trial thing done lickety-split, like fast, meaning March 12, 2024, or right around that time, which is right around the time of the Georgia primary, March 2024, when they want this trial to go. We're going to read through the scheduling order. I think it's insane. I mean, it's like, is this a joke? Because you've got 19 co-defendants. So we'll see. Now, the judge who got appointed to this thing, 34-year-old young man, Scott McAfee. Shout out to young man Judge Scott McAfee. Been on the bench for like 6 months. Now going to be dealing with the historical case involving RICO and the former president, current presidential candidate, and the weaponization of the government. So kind of hit the jackpot on that if you're going to be a judge. Now, we'll see what happens. We've got updates on what the proceeding is going to look like. They're saying Trump's going to get a mugshot. Cameras will be allowed. We've got a couple of clips from Alina Habba in the House. And then we'll go into Newt Gingrinch and some reaction from some other people, including Tim Scott, Gretchin Witmer, Pencil Neck Adam Schiff, and Tom Cotton, all reacting to this. So we got a bunch of clips throughout the show. Then I want to go through this federal removal attempt. We know that Mark Meadows, Donald Trump's former chief of staff, has also been named as a co-defendant, and he has filed to remove this from the state court, from Big Fani Willis, all the way up to the federal court, because he says, you know, I was a federal officer at the time that all this conduct, alleged criminality occurred. Therefore, this should be a federal matter. Trump is going to do the removal also, and so we'll see what that story shares with us. And then some updates on Hunter Biden and his lawyers, because they are responding now. And we've been following this back and forth all week, and it's been wild. And the judge ordered them to say, Hunter's defense team, you know, what's your opinion on the dismissal based on venue? Remember, there was a dismissal. They said, we're in the wrong court. Since we don't have a plea deal, we have to dismiss, file it in the right court, because Hunter's not going to waive venue. And the defense team was being very coy about this. And so they submitted their response that we will read through. We've got reaction from the White House, from Kev McCarthy, Byron Donalds, and James Comer. And so as you can see, my friends, we've got a lot to get to today, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We got some filings, we got some good clips, and we'll get through all of it. We had a beautiful members-only stream this morning. Shout out to our members who joined us this morning, whether you were with us on Locals at watchingthewatchers.locals.com or on YouTube. We had a great stream. I got to share a little bit about the vision for what's coming next here in terms of interviews, working on setting up an interview station right behind what we're doing here. And it's kind of janky right now. It's not really, you know, anything too proud of, but it's a work in progress. And so shout out to our members who joined us. We had some serious fun. So also want to recommend you check out our brand new website, robertgouveia.com, where you can sign up, get access to the daily mind map, the daily newsletter, and the mind map. So everything we're about to go through is on a mind map. You can access that, navigate it just like I do with my mouse here at your current leisure. And it is a great way also to get our daily newsletter. And the daily newsletter will show up in your inbox so that you can get links to these reports. These reports are where, if you don't want to watch videos on the you don't have time to watch all the videos, you can just come check out the news, get the headlines, get the clips, and read the summation of what we are covering. So this is all available for free, robertgovea.com. We appreciate you going over there, checking it out. We got a lot of cool stuff we're working on. We're excited about it. Now, before we get into the show, we got to make sure we're healthy. And, sometimes we can get a little bit off track, but we'd like to stay on track because we want to be healthy and well. And so we all would also, in addition to being healthy, would like to lose, some of those leftover pandemic pounds, you know what I'm saying? But how sick are you of all the ads for the weight loss pills, the fad diets, and blah, blah, blah? We've all been there. We've all done that, and they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that, and the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables and fruit, not a fan. And who's got time to prepare that all day, every day anyways? I don't. Let's talk about Field of Greens. Now, Field of Greens, as you can see on your screen, is a science-backed formula of specific fruits and vegetables that you won't find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and you're going to feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when you walk into your doctor's office and they say, "Oh my goodness, you look outstanding." Whatever you're doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to save your 15% off with code Robert at checkout. And let's not forget, at Field of Greens, the vegetables want to be eaten, all right? You're going to be bursting with green energy, the good kind. And your hair probably won't look like that, right? Unless you eat a lot of Field of Greens. That's probably too much. Be careful. Not medical advice. All right. So let's get into the show because we've got some business to attend to. Big Fani Willis from Georgia wants a trial in the Trump prosecution, and she wants it fast because, of course, this is election interference. This is their entire campaign. They've had years to investigate all of this and bring the charges, but they drop it and they time it right to coincide with some very important dates. And so Big Fani scheduled the trial, or is asking for the scheduling of the trial, to be taking place in March. You know what else is taking place in March in Georgia? Oh, yeah, the Georgia primaries. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, the guy who allegedly was the victim of Trump's persecution to find the votes, he set Georgia's presidential primary for March 12th, 2024. And so Raffensperger sets it for March 12th. Big Fani schedules it right around the same time. And this is hilarious because there are 19 co-defendants. There are a lot of different people there. They're all going to have a lot to say about this garbage prosecution. So we're going to go through the scheduling order, learn more about the judge. They're saying Trump's going to get a mugshot and cameras are going to be coming. Then we've got reaction from Alina Habba, Newt Gingrich, Pencil Neck Schiff, and the others. But let's get started with the actual scheduling order from Big Fani. August 16th, 1249, filed in the Fulton County Superior Court. The case is Georgia and Big Fani versus Trump, Giuliani, Eastman, Mark Meadows, and so on. We know Jenna Ellis is in there and others, all being prosecuted by the Willis. Now, this is what Fani has to say. And let's see, did she sign this thing? No, Nathan Wade did. Georgia prosecutor, special prosecutor over from the attorney's office. So here's what we've got. Says, here's the motion for an entry of a pre-trial scheduling order. We've got a lot of co-defendants here. Says, comes now, state of Georgia, by Big Fani, and we request that the court enter a pretrial scheduling order in the case against Trump. They say, in light of Donald Trump's other criminal and civil matters pending in the court of our sister sovereigns, and they're listing them all. We've got a bunch of them. We've got the one out of Washington, D.C. We've got the one out of Florida, Southern District of New York, another Southern District of New York, and they say there's a lot going on. We've been waging a war against this guy for quite a long time, and it's working as expected. They say that Big Fani proposes certain deadlines that do not conflict with these other courts' already scheduled hearings and trial dates. And further, the proposed dates are requested so as to allow Trump and his needs to review discovery and to prepare for trial, but also to protect the state of Georgia and the public interest in a prompt resolution of the charges for which Trump has been indicted and the others. The state attaches to this motion a proposed pretrial scheduling order for your consideration, Judge. And so they're saying, we've tucked this thing right in there. You know, we've got all these other cases going on. They've got 4 of them. I think 2 of those No, one of those are civil. The other one is out of Manhattan. So that's the city court. This one's Superior Court. Both of those are at a Superior Court, it looks like. So he's got more stuff going on than this. He's got other civil stuff. I think she's missing other cases, quite frankly. But there's a lot going on. And so she's saying that I've tucked this in there, and therefore this date is perfect. We can squeeze it in. So here's the proposed scheduling order. Big Fani says, all right, Your Honor, here's what we think you should sign. In other words, this is what the judge should just sign. The arraignment would be scheduled for September 5th, 2023. So they'll have their initial appearance, and then everybody's going to show up for their arraignments. The clerk of Fulton Superior Court shall mail to each defendant notice at least 5 days prior, so they can all show up there. Georgia law says they've got to have 5 days notice, which is not a lot of time. Hi, you've been indicted. Be here in 5 days or else. And we know this is not just Georgia. They're going into Pennsylvania. They're going into Michigan. They're going into Arizona. Yeah, we're just going to drop our work and go from Arizona to Georgia in 5 days. Nice. They say that Trump has until 10 days after the arraignment to opt into reciprocal discovery under the law. So they can exchange discovery. If Trump elects to participate in this discovery, all parties shall serve discovery materials no later than September 29th. And so just like the government has the entire case file and they've got a duty to disclose that to the defense has a duty to disclose their defenses, at least stuff that is, not work product. But it's, hey, this is our witness. There are certain defenses you have to declare are affirmative defenses. Say, like this thing happened, but I have a justification for it. So you got to notify the government. Any additional discovery shall be provided to opposing counsel on a rolling basis as soon as practicable under the rules. If Trump gets new lawyer or anybody gets new lawyers, it shall be the duty of the original attorney to give the discovery to the new lawyers. They say all claims of immunity are to be filed within 10 days of the arraignment. All particularized motions, including motions to suppress, notices of evidence of other crimes, 404B notices, which is about character evidence stuff. Hearing for motions filed by October 39th. So October 31st is the deadline for that. Hearings commence in December. Generalized omnibus motions will not be considered by the court. Interesting. All motions shall specify with particularity the item at issue. So, for example, if you file a motion to suppress any and all statements is insufficient, the motion must identify the specific statement the movement is seeking to suppress. All motions in limine 5 days before the call of the trial. And so this is all pretty standard criminal procedure stuff, except the dates are very accelerated. Like this is fast. The final pretrial conference shall be held February 20th, 2024. And then trial starts March 4th, 2024. Trial right before the Georgia primaries. And there's 19 co-defendants in this case. So it's probably going to take a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, to go through 19 co-defendants and all of the various witnesses. So they schedule it for March 4th. We know that the primaries March 12th. Oh, man. So they'll be right in the middle of trial in Georgia when people are going into Georgia voting booths to vote for Trump or someone else. Isn't that amazing? Weird scheduled timing. It's like, wow. And Big Fani's like, no, we tucked it right in there. It's like right perfectly because we know that they want the others to go. We've got the Florida case, which is going to happen in May. They want the J6 case to happen in, I say December. They say January. I say December because that's when jury selection starts, but the actual open arguments would start January. So it would be, the way I think the schedule would go, at least in the criminal cases, is it's DC first in January, Big Fani second in March, Florida in May, and then Alvin would be after that because he's already confirmed to us that he's going to go after the special counsel at the federal level. So they've got them all scheduled up. So the entire primary season and all the months, January, March, May, and then probably what? I don't know. They could probably use a trial in October. That'd be very helpful for them. So maybe they'll schedule one in October. So they all just get scheduled out. Very convenient. Shocking, right? So let's take a look at this judge. Who's going to be the guy presiding over this whole thing? Scott McAfee. been a judge for 6 months. Now he's assigned to Trump's Georgia case. 34 years old. He's got ties to Georgia's governor and the Atlanta prosecutor who brought charges against the former president. Oh, oh, isn't that interesting? Yeah, we know Brian Kemp, the governor, is not a big fan of Donald Trump. They're always at each other's throats. So they get this 34-year-old who's, I'm sure highly qualified. Fulton County Superior Court judge first put on his robes in February of this year. 6 months into the gig, he's assigned to oversee the biggest case perhaps in Georgia history, maybe in the history of the country. The criminal indictment, right? Because they might throw him in custody or something. Who knows? They're showing us how nuts they are. The criminal indictment of Trump and 18 others. McAfee, the judge, 34 years old, has spent much of his career as a prosecutor. First for the Fulton County DA, and then later for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Atlanta. Now, he was randomly assigned the case, but he's worked for key people involved in the events. He worked for Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, a fellow Republican whom Trump attacked for not joining Trump. He also worked for Byung Pak, whom Trump forced out of his office for not joining the effort. And he worked for Fani Willis, the Democrat district attorney who led the 2.5-year-long probe and then timed it right with the election. Weird how this is happening. Isn't it strange? It's so random. We have a random schedule of the trial and a random judge. Attorneys in Atlanta call McAfee smart and professional. I'm sure he is. Those qualities will be tested in a gigantic case along with other big players like Rudy Giuliani and others. Lauren Zimmerman, an Atlanta criminal defense attorney, says McAfee is fairly knowledgeable, kind person. It's a nice statement. That's a real nice statement. So this is from a defense lawyer. Listen to these words. You just know this. Lauren Zimmerman is like, he can't say anything bad about the judge because he's in Atlanta and the judge is there in Fulton County. And so he says, no, he's, hey, this is a reporter so-and-so from the Wall Street Journal. Is this Lauren Zimmerman? Yeah. Got a time for a comment? I'd love to give you a comment. I love talking to the media. We love free publicity. Oh, great. Lawrence, what do you think of Judge McAfee? Oh, crap. I've got like 5 cases in front of that judge. He's fairly knowledgeable, I'd say. Kind. He's a kind person. Fairly knowledgeable, kind person. Write that down. But Zimmerman, the defense attorney's like, oh, got out of that one. All right. Oh my God. I'm going to see this judge tomorrow with my defense, my other clients. I'm in big trouble. But Zimmerman said he worried the sheer size of the case now before McAfee might be overwhelming to someone so new to the bench. Yeah. Said he wasn't glad. He's glad he wasn't in McAfee's position. No kidding. Zimmerman expected McAfee to eventually create separate trials for individuals, right? Or smaller groups to handle the large number. He says it's so vast and voluminous, this is not manageable. Now, we heard Big Fani tell us that they were all going to be tried together. And I don't know if she understood that question, to be fair to her. I don't know if she understood what they were asking because, the question was very clear. I understood it, but she's a prosecutor, so they have a difficult time with some of this stuff. So the media asked her, are you going to try them together? And she said, yes, we are. You're going to do 19 people together as co-defendants in one trial? Okay, let's do it. Let's see how it goes. Let's do it. Let's try it. Because we already saw how this goes in the Proud Boys trial. There were 5 co-defendants and it was madness. It took forever. The attorneys were, spazzing out. The judge was spazzing out. It was a mess. So let's try it. Let's do 19, Big Fani. Let's see if you can, bite off that much. So McAfee didn't respond to calls from his office, obviously. He's expected the judge to be closely scrutinized on national television and social media. He can expect angry emails. And don't send the judge any emails. I'm not saying that you will. Of course, this is the most intelligent audience on the whole internet. But it's very, they'll investigate you for that type of stuff. So I just have to issue a PSA, public service announcement on that. All right, it will be a sharp change for a man who played the cello. All right, so you see where this goes. So we'll see. Brian Kemp's former employee, Big Fani's former employee, 34 years old, kind, fairly knowledgeable guy, going to be presiding over the case. Now, when it lands in front of him, when the arraignment shows up, is Donald Trump going to be held without bond, held in custody? Well, I doubt it, because the Secret Service is not going to be too happy if they decided to do that. And I'm sure this whole thing is going to be worked out well beforehand. But there is a possibility that something like that does happen. And the big question that I have is, what is the government, or in this case, the state, going to be asking for? Is Big Fani, who just indicted 19 people in a massive racketeering alleged scheme, she going to ask for custody? She going to ask for pretrial services? So far, these people have been bluffing. They've all been saying Trump is an insurrectionist, and then he goes into New York and they don't do anything. I just let him right out. They in Florida, walk right out. DC, the biggest crime ever, he walks right out. Not even anything. Not even real checking in with pretrial services or anything. So they've all been bluffing this whole time. But these people are a special kind of nuts in Georgia, especially with Fani. We listened to her the other day, and she might actually ask for something like this, and the judge might say, well, maybe I will assign you to pretrial services, and Trump, you do have to call a probation officer or something like that. We don't know. After all, they're trying to make history. So this is mugshot, TV cameras. They say Trump won't be treated so different this time. He's been getting away with it for all of these indictments. Atlanta officials have insisted that Trump won't be treated differently than regular defendants, promising he'll have a mugshot taken and a potential trial televised. Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labatt said, unless someone tells me differently, we're following our normal practices, and so it doesn't matter your status, we'll have a mugshot ready for you. The first presidential mugshot may not come right away. They say Trump has until August 25th to voluntarily surrender. And August 25th is a Friday. August 25th is a Friday. And Donald Trump is going to be testifying on Monday. And our question is Donald Trump's presentation to all of us going to be something that they charge him with new crimes for? We'll have to see. So local law enforcement is going to be available. Others will be available. Georgia courts traditionally have allowed the media and public in so that they can see how the process works. And Trump has, of course, been fingerprinted in the previous cases before. However, he was not handcuffed, and officials in each case reportedly opted to upload existing photos of Trump to their booking systems rather than take a mugshot. Labatt did not say whether the officers will cuff Trump and take him into custody. Woo! All right, so we'll see. Now, the only other case where we saw photos from inside the courtroom was in Manhattan, because that's a state-level case. And Big Fani is going to be milking the spotlight on this thing. I mean, she already was trying to do that previously. And we know that that is going to continue. And so with reaction to this, we've got Alina Habba in the house. And she, I'm sorry to say this, she commits multiple felonies in this interview right here. So she's probably going to be added as a co-defendant for number 20.
Does President Trump know that this is a perilous threat?
We do not agree that it is a perilous threat because we actually have inside information. So I love when people,
what inside information?
Well, the inside information, Steve, and you used to love Trump, but I got to tell you, I have confidentiality and I have ethics, and I'm going to continue. But I think you need to understand something. When somebody is given a report, and he has reports that show that there was interference, and you could be advised by one lawyer that says, oh, I don't think so, and you could have another lawyer that says, no, I do think so, and here's some reports, and we know that there were issues in Fulton County, we know it's not a question. There was election issues, and the integrity of our election is in question at this very moment.
Felony. Arrest her.
When he says, I want to look into it, I don't trust it, we need to look into it, that's his obligation as a president, okay? Look at Letitia James, for instance, Steve. Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, stood up on a podium, who's suing the Trump Organization, and said, President Trump is an illegitimate president.
And her face, her face twitched. Remember that's like her face like all twitchy when she said that?
Are you going to get criminally charged? What about Hillary Clinton?
Every day, she said.
You know, it's interesting when you see.
Yeah, it is interesting. And yeah, I see it now. Alina's married. She's got a big old rock on that finger, doesn't she? Yeah, look at the size of that thing. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, what was she saying? Something brilliant, I'm sure. We got another clip from Alina, and this is a big question. This is something that will come up because there are 19 different co-defendants. And so the big question is anybody going to flip? Are they going to take some co-defendants and use them against the other co-defendants? Certainly some people in there are freaked out. They don't want to be prosecuted. They don't want to go to prison for Donald Trump. So they're going to flip. They might get a little bit squirrely and say, whatever you need, Fani, we're going to come in and testify, and we'll help you indict the bad guys. So who is she going to flip? And this question comes over to Alina. They ask her about it, and she's not concerned about it either.
Alina, 18 other people were indicted. We know that the goal is to get somebody or multiple people to flip and turn on the former president. Are you concerned about anyone in particular flipping?
Well, flipping implicates that there's a problem that the president should be worried about, and somebody's going to say something that would damage him. And so the answer to that question is very simply no. All of these individuals have probably gone through the grand jury process, if I had to assume. So their testimony is already held by the prosecutors. So anything they say that would contradict what they said in the grand jury would be perjury. At this point, that ship has kind of sailed. In terms of, again, flipping. I mean, flipping is when you have a real crime family and a real mob boss at the head with secrets, and that you're waiting for somebody to accidentally or feel pressure to turn around and say, oh, he made me do it. Well, that's just not the case. And the phone call has been publicized for 2 years.
Yeah, the evidence is out. I mean, what other evidence is there? We're not seeing anything new. I mean, if they had the smoking gun, I would imagine we'd see it by now. Now, we have another segment coming up where they say they've got Trump's DMs and all these other things. But Alina's point is the same. They can get whatever they want. They can get emails, they can get texts, they can get phone calls, they can go talk to whoever they want. Doesn't matter, because there was no criminality here. What we were doing was legitimately investigating an alternative theory to what happened at the election. And just because a bunch of Democrats came out and said that it was a done deal doesn't mean that it was from Trump's perspective. And he did nothing other than what other Democrats have done in his statements and his actions and in his efforts in various places around the country. And so now what we see is reaction. Tim Scott is obviously running against Donald Trump for president. He got asked about this on the campaign trail.
Quick question for you, if we could start off with the latest indictment of your chief rival, Donald Trump. I know we've talked about the two-tiered system of justice, you see it in the past, but if we could look into Georgia specifically, right? We all heard that phone call with the former president, then president at the time, where he said, just find me the requisite number of votes that I would need. Doesn't that feel anti-American? Doesn't that feel like not what a president should do?
I always continue to say it as I see it, which is that we see the legal system being weaponized against political opponents. That is un-American and unacceptable. And at the end of the day, we need a better system than that. And I frankly hope to be the President of the United States where we have an opportunity to restore confidence and integrity in all of our departments of justice in the country.
Yeah, but that phone call, you heard it, right?
Yes, but we've just drawn different conclusions. The next
you think it's fine? You would do that as president? You would look for the amount of votes?
Yeah, if you're saying, hey, we're going to do a recount, if we're going to do an audit, we think there was fraud. Yeah, you talk about the number of votes. Are you telling me, these hysterical reporters, that nobody in Hillary Clinton's camp, when they were losing in 2016, you're telling me they didn't say, how many votes were there in Wisconsin? We can't close the gap by how many? You're telling me there's not 10,000 votes? There's not 5,000 votes? You can't find them? You're telling me that that's not what the conversation was with Jake Sullivan over there? Give me a break, all right? They're all doing the same thing. Trump just got skewered for it because he's Donald Trump. Now, something interesting is happening here. This is Donald Trump's fourth indictment, and it seems like maybe people are checking out, like it's not that big of a deal because it's the fourth indictment. They've got 91 counts now. Everybody goes, oh, great, so what? If he's really so bad, right, wouldn't just one case with some actual serious charges be enough? Or is it death by 1,000 cuts? Is it the quantity of the charges rather than the quality of them? We just have a lot of them because they're all garbage. Yeah, I think that's what it's turning out to be. But it doesn't seem like it is working as hard as they want it to work. In fact, on MSNBC, there were some concern about this, and they brought big Gretchin Witmer to come on and talk about it.
Despite the economic progress and the lowering of inflation and what has been done, spades in the ground on a lot of these projects, despite all of that, here you've got Donald Trump, a former president, in so much legal trouble, 4 indictments, and yet a New York Times Siena College poll of a hypothetical matchup between him and the president, he's tied 43 with President Biden.
Oh.
That poll was taken before this last indictment.
So, you know, Andrea,
that's got to be frustrating to you as a co-chair and to the White House.
It's frustrating to you, isn't it, Andrea? Frustrating to all you people.
well, you know what?
Which is a strange thing. It's like, why does it matter at all? Why do the polls matter with the indictments? Isn't it one thing has nothing to do with the other? Shouldn't the indictments stand on their own? But what they're wanting is the indictments to crush the polls, which is why they keep indicting him, but it's not working.
A year ago, people were writing my political obituary, and I won by 11 points and flipped both chambers of our legislature in Michigan, something that hadn't been done in 40 years. At the end of the day, voters are not stupid. They are very smart. They know who's really working to improve the quality of their lives, who's working to codify rights instead of taking them away from people, who's working to make sure that all people in this country can get on a path to prosperity. So ultimately, that's how elections are decided.
All right, that's how elections are decided. We'll see about that. I don't think anybody has any faith that that's how the elections are going to be decided. But Adam Schiff got the same type of question on the media about this. This one came over from this Collins person. And she says to Pencilneck, she's like, hey, you know, it seems like people aren't really reacting to this. What do you think? Schiff?
This is now the fourth time that Trump has been indicted. I know we hear from Democrats, obviously, every time that those indictments have come down. But do you think voters have already made up their minds? Are they desensitized to these indictments?
I think that there are still a great many Americans who are going to be very interested to watch these trials. And I'm particularly grateful that in Georgia, that trial is likely to be televised. I've been urging the Judicial Conference and led a letter to that conference with dozens of my colleagues, urging that the federal proceedings be televised, because I think it's going to be enormously important that those people who have an open mind get to watch, that it's not filtered in one way or another. So I applaud the hard work of the grand jury in Fulton County, the willingness to go forward. And I'm glad the American people are going to get to watch at least one of these trials. And I'm particularly also struck by how much the Georgia indictment really tracks the work of the January 6th committee, and in particular the hearing that I led. And it's, I think, very similar to the federal January 6th indictment in tracking the work of our committee.
Yeah, which is exactly why that committee existed, because the committee was like a government-funded, publicly open grand jury proceeding that was all one-sided, that used all of the federal money, federal efforts, federal eyeballs, investigators, and Congress, which was a openly partisan committee with Kinzinger and Cheney, who are no longer Republicans in Congress and who were barely even on that list when they were in the Congress. It was a partisan hack job, and they just used everything from that and just gave it over to Big Fani and gave it over to Jack Smith. And that's not how this is supposed to work in this country, but Adam Schiff is acknowledging it. And so we've got some reaction from some Republicans, and Tom Cotton says, you know, this is banana republic stuff. This is the way of the fall of empires.
I think it's another politicized prosecution that's more befitting of a third world banana republic than our great country. I mean, Donald Trump has now been indicted in Atlanta for his tweets, for goodness sake. This is a DA who's elected in a deep Democratic city and who claimed that she was going to get Trump publicly, and whose office is so incompetent that they can't even organize the release of the indictment after the grand jury votes in a press conference before midnight. And I suspect you'll see that incompetence is reflected in the investigation as well. But at root, like Jack Smith's indictment in Washington, like Alvin Bragg's indictment in New York, this is about politicizing or using law enforcement to pursue political differences. All of these cases arise out of campaigns. And you don't have to agree with Donald Trump's stance on the 2020 election. You certainly don't have to support Donald Trump or Republicans to realize that turning political differences in the middle of campaigns into criminal matters is a very dangerous precedent to set. Something, again, that is more common in places like Brazil or Pakistan than in America.
Biden's America, that's what we've got now. So Tom Cotton, I think, is pointing to a very, very serious change that has happened this year in this country. 4 indictments in 4.5 months, 91 charges, tons of different co-defendants. And so the entire judicial system has now been weaponized. And people who've been around for a while and who've been studying history, students of America and the world, like Newt Gingrich, are recognizing the cataclysmic consequences of what the Democrats are doing. Here's Newt.
That it is Barack Obama who corrupts the Justice Department. It is Hillary Clinton who routinely breaks the law and gets away with it. And now we have Joe Biden who's learned. He's learned from Obama that doesn't matter what you do, if you're a liberal Democrat, you will not be prosecuted. He learned from Hillary that a person in high public office can get millions and millions of dollars. And they learned from watching Donald Trump that a true outsider willing to take on the entire system could destroy their entire machine. So what you're seeing across the country is a desperate last-ditch effort by a corrupt machine to destroy their most dangerous opponent in a way which not only breaks the Constitution, destroys the rule of law, and establishes a moment of bitterness, which I think will last for a generation or more. I think this is going to be a horrendous period, and we just need to understand the people who want to control America and dictate to the rest of us will break any law, lie about any topic, and manipulate the system any way they can, and that includes a lot of the elite news media.
It's going to be brutal, says Newt, and I think he's right about this. These people are crossing lines that should not be crossed. At one point in this country, we had, sparring opponents, people in adversarial systems working against each other. But we kind of followed the rules more or less. You'd have people who would kick each other, in places they shouldn't be kicked. But now those rules that we would be gentlemen sparring partners in the court of public opinion in the political sphere, it's kind of gone now. It is your opponents just go to prison because they're insurrectionists or they are spreading misinformation and posting illegal memes and challenging the government narratives. And so I think Newt is right about it. It is going to be brutal. You know that the Democrats say that history just started with Trump. Trump's the person who caused all of this. I've seen a lot of people, reputable people, just saying, I can't believe Trump is initiating this whole collapse of the country. And we're sitting here wondering, where were these people when Donald Trump was set up with the Christopher Steele dossier by the same FBI, by the same DOJ? They started this stuff before Trump even walked into office, and they wrecked his whole first administration on the back of it, and they've been setting him up ever since. But then they'll turn around and point to us and say, Trump started this, and he's been the person who shattered the norms of American politics? No. He got into office promising to prosecute Hillary, never did, because he wasn't willing to cross that line. The Democrats did. They said, well, all right, Trump didn't exercise his power with total authority. Maybe we'll do it. And they are doing it hard. And so it is going to be, I think, a brutal period. But as Newt mentioned, these are the signs of a dying tyranny, right? These are people who are flailing for control because they don't have it. And they are on the opposite, wrong side of history. They're the ones who are shattering precedent, thinking that this last grasp for power is going to float them for the foreseeable future. I don't buy it. I think at some point it's all going to come collapsing down. And so we've got to stay strong and keep marching forward. We'll do that right here. Thank you, my friends, for subscribing as we continue to cover. All right. Now, let's change ground. We're talking about the same stuff here, but this is Mark Meadows now and Donald Trump because they are working in federal court to try to get this case removed. Mark Meadows and Donald Trump we'll say that again. Mark Meadows has now filed a motion to remove the Georgia prosecution into federal court. We're going to go through the full filing. There are rumors now that Trump is going to do the same thing, and they're invoking the supremacy clause. They're saying that, look, we were in federal government when this alleged criminality was in place, and we don't want a system where state governments can just go and muck up what's happening in the federal courts, or the federal government, rather. And so Mark Meadows is trying to take it from the state court up into the federal level. Let's go through the filing here. 14 pages submitted in the Northern District of Georgia, Georgia versus Mark Meadows. And this is just coming from Mark Meadows and his team only, but we expect them to be filed by Trump and his defense and probably many other defendants who this applies to. If they were agents of the federal government, then this motion, I would argue, would apply to them. So you see Mark Meadows by counsel, John Englert, and others out of Georgia and D.C. They say, hey, Mark Meadows, former chief of staff to Trump, removes this proceeding from Fulton County Superior Court. Mark Meadows has got 2 counts, count 1 and 28. Meadows, they say, has a right to remove this matter. The conduct giving rise to the charges in the indictment all occurred during his tenure and as part of his service as Trump's chief of staff. In these circumstances, federal law provides for prompt removal of a criminal prosecution that is commenced in a state court against a federal official that involves his official individual capacity under color of office. U.S. Code. So Donald Trump tried this in New York, and they said that this didn't apply to him because the Alvin Bragg prosecution that involves Michael Cohen and all of the business transactions, he wasn't president yet. This was before he was president. He was making these payments allegedly, and that was not under color of his office. So he didn't meet that element. So in New York, it didn't get removed. But Trump was clearly president in all of the allegations that were in the RICO indictment. And so this might be a different situation. The removal statute protects the federal government from interference with its operations that would ensue if a state like Big Fani were able, for example, to arrest and bring trial in a state court for an alleged offense against the state. So any state prosecutor could just say, well, we're just going to prosecute the president and just drag him into court. So they cite some case law saying that agents of the federal government, if they're acting within the scope of their authority, they should be immunized from those types of attacks. Meadows and his team say nothing Meadows is alleged in the indictment to have done is criminal per se, right? Per se. They say arranging Oval Office meetings, contacting state officials on the president's behalf, visiting a government building, setting up a phone call for Trump. One would expect a chief of staff of the president to do that stuff. And they have far less to do with the interest of state law than, for example, murder charges. And murder charges have been successfully removed before. They cite a case. Wow, so you can remove murder? This is precisely the kind of state interference in federal official duties that the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution prohibits, and the removal statute shields against. Meadows intends to file a motion to dismiss this indictment pursuant to Rule 12b of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure as soon as feasible. He requests that this court order an evidentiary hearing to dispose of the prosecution as justice shall require. Justice requires the prompt dismissal of the charges against Mr. Meadows. At minimum, in the meantime, federal law requires granting removal, which will halt the state court proceedings against Meadows while the motion to dismiss is resolved. So basically, he's going to file a motion to dismiss saying that there is no alleged crime. There's actually no crime that even took place here. I don't even know why I'm listed in the indictment. There is no violation of U.S. code or state law. And so, Judge, I need you to dispose of this. So Meadows says, Your Honor, the federal court has jurisdiction. It arises, this case, directly from his service as chief of staff. He served in that role March 31st, 2020, January 20th, 2021. Before that, he was a member of the House of Representatives and served in Congress. The events giving rise to this indictment occurred during his role as the chief of staff, directly related to that role. Here's what they say. They say Meadows met with Michigan Senate leader and other Michigan legislators. Okay. He also sent a text message, Mark Meadows, illegal text message. He asked for a number. Can you send me the number for the speaker? Illegal. Another one, Rudy, Jenna Ellis, Donald Trump, and Mark Meadows met with a group of Pennsylvania legislators at the White House. Illegal. And they also outlined a strategy with John McCarthy and others to prepare a memo. Okay, so like writing a strategy memo is illegal. And also Mark Meadows attempted to observe the signature match audit being performed there. Mark Meadows went and tried to observe. Yeah. Cobb County, he attempted to observe the signature match audit that was being performed there. despite the fact that the audit process was not open to the public, illegal. Georgia deputy talked to him, and they prevented him from entering the audit space. So you can't see it. Sorry, Mark. And if you try to see it, that's an illegal act in furtherance of a racketeering conspiracy. Mark Meadows also falsely stated on a phone call that Trump won by hundreds of thousands of votes. Illegal. Arranged a call. So he didn't even make the call. He arranged the call, and then Donald Trump made the call. Meadows also sent a text message. Is there a way to speed up the county signature verification? Illegal. They say that he also solicited the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. All right, you get the rest of it. So they say the charge conduct here, all of that stuff, was done by Mr. Meadows as the chief of staff. It's apparent on the face of the indictment that Meadows arranged meetings for Trump. He went to a site. He tried to review the audits because, and only because, he was serving as the chief of staff. He wanted to report back to the president how the audit was going. Meadows, in his role as chief of staff, also arranged phone calls between the president and Georgia officials. These and other acts that form the basis, all of the charges, all fall squarely within his conduct as chief of staff. So Meadows, and Trump's going to make a similar claim, has defenses to the charges in Georgia. Says these claims arise under federal law, and we've also got a federal immunity defense under the Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution. They say for purposes of removal, it is enough that the defendant, in this case Meadows, has a plausible defense. Here, the charges against Meadow far exceed that low threshold. It should be clear from the face of the indictment that the charges against Meadows should be dismissed. But for the purposes of removal, the court doesn't need to make that determination. He's entitled to remove this action because it plausibly gives rise to a federal defense, namely that he was the White House chief of staff. We've complied with the notice requirements, so we've notified everybody about this. No process has been served upon Mr. Meadows, like we're early enough in this process yet. While removal can be initiated later, might be appropriate to do it right now. So the defense says that the court should hold an evidentiary hearing quickly. We respectfully ask this court to hold an evidentiary hearing and either dismiss the charges outright because of the Supremacy Clause, or grant a removal and notify the state court and halt the proceedings. Meadows respectfully submits this disposition is for charges that must be dismissed under the Supremacy Clause. Even if the court is not prepared to dismiss right now, justice requires the removal so that we can consider this in a better forum. They're arguing for a few things. They say, first, the court should promptly dismiss all charges against Meadows under the Supremacy Clause. The Supremacy Clause says the following: this Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges of every state shall be bound thereby. The Supreme Court has long interpreted the Supremacy Clause to provide federal officials of immunity from suit involving state charges to protect federal operations. And with the police power, including the power to define and punish crimes, it's reserved to the state, but it cannot be employed against federal officials. And a federal official is entitled to immunity if he's authorized to do what he did, if it was his duty. Here, it's unmistakably clear. The indictment charges Meadows with alleged crimes based on the acts he took as chief of staff to Trump. Therefore, he's entitled to immunity from the Supremacy Clause. The court should dismiss all charges against Mr. Meadows. And even if you're not prepared to rule on the dismissal, you should remove the case. The standard for removal is even easier to meet than other standards. And so therefore, the court should promptly dismiss the charges against Mr. Meadows, or at minimum, accept removal and stay the state court proceedings. So interesting. We'll see if the judge does it. I think the judge should do it, of course, but we know that we're dealing with very unprecedented types of cases. Even the case against Trump in New York was not removed. The federal judge reviewed it and said, nope, not close enough for us, so we'll see. Now, Trump is expected to file a very similar motion, and this is going to be a big battle because the Georgia prosecutors are going to want to keep it at the state court. Trump, if he removes it, he can get a better judge, theoretically, somebody he appointed, and likely a better jury pool. Although charges were filed in state court, Trump is expected to argue that much of the conduct he's been charged with was undertaken in his capacity as the president. He was still president during the critical period when they attempted to allegedly subvert the election results. The removal statute, as we read through, allows them to do this. Trump already tried to do this in New York, but a federal judge there rejected the effort. They said, nope, stays in state because it didn't really implicate Trump's powers as president. That obviously is not going to be the case here. Trump, as the executive of the country, has an obligation to go and investigate any malfeasance as the chief executive of the country. And so Mark Meadows trying to remove it. Donald Trump will also be trying to remove it. And that would take this whole case away from the biggest Fani in Georgia. And it would be a big victory. Of course, we'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing as we do. All right. Now, let's talk about these DMs. The feds got Trump's DMs. We know that they were trying to get everything in his Twitter account, and due to recently unsealed filings, we now know they got it. We saw this first come over from Miss Marina Medvin. She says, the feds have Trump's DMs, even the deleted ones, and unsent drafted tweets. So some backstory on this. Remember that Elon, when he bought over X, Jack Smith and the government were already fighting to get Trump's entire Twitter account under subpoena because the judge in the DC circuit granted the subpoena and allowed them to do that. Elon was penalized over $300,000 for a delay. They ultimately got those records, but now the transcripts from the court proceeding have been unsealed. And so Marina Medvin, at Marina Medvin on Twitter, is where I first saw this. She posted an excerpt. She says, the court says, okay, let's move on to B. This is the judge speaking. This is a hearing between the prosecutors and Twitter. Let's move on to B. Talking about Trump. The content of all direct messages, the DMs, in the Trump Twitter account. She says, sent from, received by, stored in draft forms. It's the scope of the subpoena. In or otherwise associated with subject account, including attachments, multimedia, header information, and la la la. So the judge says, Mr. Holtzblatt, am I understanding correctly that that has been produced? To the extent it's subject to your standard production tool, but to the extent that this data falls into the to preserve caches, he says, we've also produced it. Court says, you have also produced it? He says, that is happily. That was one of the things our engineers were able to pull at 2 a.m. And that included deleted direct messages, and not just non-deleted, but also deleted direct messages. So all of Trump's DMs, all of his deleted drafts, all of it. Court says, oh, great. And then 3, content which, for the record's clarity, all this other content from other Twitter users from October 20th to January 20th, right? So they got the DMs of Trump. Here's some more details on the search warrant. Hugo Lowell, who reports over for The Guardian, says the special counsel search warrant that Jack Smith got for Donald Trump's Twitter demanded tons of stuff. Devices that were used to log into the account, IP addresses that were used to log in, messages, all messages that were sent and received. You can see this is the seizure document attachment B. Identity and contact information, full name of everybody, all usernames, length of service, devices used to log into the thing, IP addresses, all content records, all information related to the subject account from October 2020 to January 2020. All tweets created, drafted, favorited, and liked and retweeted. The content of all direct messages sent from, received by, stored in draft from Trump's account. including all multimedia, all content and records and other information related to all interactions and all other Twitter users. All users the subject account has followed, unfollowed, and blah, blah, blah. All information, all sync tools, all logs. The list goes on and on and on. They just gobbled it all up. All contacts, all associated logs and metadata, all for Donald Trump. So all tweets, all interactions, all multimedia. And they say from the transcripts that the warrant package, the affidavit, was very lengthy. So they're just gobbling up everything. Everything from Donald Trump they want. And I would imagine it's not just Twitter, right? This is from everything. I'm wondering if they're going after his bank records, his financial transactions, going through all of everything, like everything with a fine-tooth comb. What else do they have? Well, we don't know. But we do know that the whole thing is basically rigged at this point everywhere. Kellyanne Conway, you remember her, she came out and had some commentary on this saying, the whole thing is just rigged. Every jurisdiction is just top to bottom rigged.
Part of Sean, I'm in that business again, and I will tell you that part of why President Trump is way ahead of many different Republican aspirants for the presidential nomination is people see him as a fighter and they see him as a winner. And they see him a little bit as a victim because, as Alina and others have pointed out quite correctly and cogently, there's a two-tiered system of justice, and it seems like there's one for Donald Trump and one for everyone else. How in the world can you have the most liberal county in Georgia, D.C., New York City, all these places that voted against him where I don't think he could get a fair trial, to be frank with you. And I don't think people facing the cameras with glee, promising to get Donald Trump as part of their election pitch, as law enforcement officers, as district attorneys and whatnot, I think he's got a lot of runway that will allow him to make that argument. But
I agree with her. I think she's right about this. There are a lot of people who are going to see the massive double standard on display. You've got cocaine at the White House. You've got Hunter Biden engaging in monstrous criminality with Joe Biden turning a blind eye to the whole thing and getting paid for it. And when people start to see that double standard and they watch this just constant abuse of a political opponent of the Democrats, I'm hopeful they wake up. Senator Ted Kennedy, John Kennedy, sorry, John, is here, and he's got some comments about this.
It's President Trump has been indicted 4 times in the last 5 months. It's surreal. Politically, it's sort of like a zombie apocalypse. I mean, we're not talking about a DoorDash driver here. He's a former president of the United States, and he is a current active candidate for president of the United States, running against a party whose 4 prosecutors have indicted him. And regardless of what you think about President Trump, this is unprecedented. It's going to really test our political system. I mean, this is the sort of thing that happens in countries whose Powerball jackpot is 387 chickens and a goat. I mean, we don't do that in America. Now, having said that, this is the first time, but I can assure you it won't be the last. There are thousands of prosecutors out there in America, Republican and Democrat, very ambitious. And now that the glass has been broken, I worry about what that means for the rule of law in our system.
Well, if the Republicans want to survive as a party, they're going to start playing by the same rules, unfortunately. Otherwise, they're all going to be in jail. So we'll see if they jump into it. But I'm sure that there will be some Republicans out there that decide maybe it's time to go after one of the Democrats. Feds got Trump's DMs. It is Banana Republic stuff. Senator Kennedy is absolutely right about it. Country continues to go down a dangerous path, and they're celebrating it, laughing about it on the media. All right, my friends, now we've got one final segment Hunter Biden's lawyers are playing coy. They're responding to the judge's request for a response. She said, there's been a lot of shenanigans in my courtroom, and I'd like some clarity on this whole thing. And so while the government submitted a motion to dismiss one of Hunter's cases, the judge ordered Hunter's defense team to respond, and they have now done that. We'll read through it. They're agreeing to dismiss the charge, but not for the same reason that the government agrees. They're basically still staying hard to this line that there is immunity and that this court is now done. So we'll read it. We've got the White House responding to this, along with our friends Kevin McCarthy, Byron Donalds, and of course, James Comer, all reacting to David Weiss. And we're going to see if they do something about it, because these are three people all in the House of Representatives, which the Republicans control, by the way. We'll see if anything gets done or if they're just going to keep giving us sound bites for the next few years. But this is what the response looks like from Hunter's lawyers. For Foundation, we know that there was a plea deal and diversion agreement that both got botched. Hunter's people say that the diversion agreement is in full force and effect, and Hunter has immunity. The government decided that they needed to dismiss the other tax charges and refile them in a different venue because we're currently in Delaware and the actual crimes occurred somewhere else. So they filed a motion to dismiss, and Hunter's lawyers were ordered to respond to this. Here's what they say. 2 pages out of the District of Delaware. The case is U.S. of America versus Robert Hunter Biden in this so-called prosecution. This is Hunter's response to the United States motion to dismiss for lack of venue. The government wants to dismiss the charges. They promise that they're going to file it in another location. And the defense has already responded, but the judge ordered them to respond again. Now, look at this. Christopher Clark is the person who was doing the original filings. He was the guy who argued the plea deal and the guy who's been sending all the letters. But he also submitted a motion to withdraw because he's now going to be a witness when they try to hold this immunity deal in place. So the new lawyer who has just come on is Abe David Lowell. We've heard from him before. He's the person who's now drafting this very short filing. They say, defendant Robert Hunter Biden, by and through his counsel, his lawyer Abe, respectfully submits this response that government already asked for a motion to dismiss for lack of venue. They say, we're in Delaware, we got to be in a different court. Hunter's lawyers say, without adopting the government's reasoning, as venue for the existing information does not lie in this district, the information must be dismissed. Very coy. Just venue doesn't exist. So he's going to leave it up to the judge. Says further, Hunter's position is that the enforceability of the diversion agreement has no bearing on the United States motion to dismiss for lack of venue. And any disputes regarding the effect of the diversion agreement are therefore not before the court at this time. All right? So what he's doing is he's very clearly separating out the immunity issue from all of this. He said, yeah, of course. Yeah, you can dismiss for whatever you want. Dismiss for venue. Dismiss for your board. Dismiss because it's Hunter. Dismiss because there's an immunity. Doesn't matter. We have immunity. So it doesn't matter what you do. There's no bearing on anything that we're talking about. So they are going to stay hard and fast on this motion. And look at this. Latham and Watkins is back in the picture. Remember Latham and Watkins? Yeah, we talked about them a lot during the Michael Sussman saga. So they're back in the picture again. All right, so that is what Hunter's lawyers are doing. Now, we asked Karine about this. Hey, Karine Jean-Pierre, can you please tell us what the White House has to say about this? Because you have now appointed a special counsel to investigate the president's son, even though you said many times we don't need a special counsel because David Weiss already has the authority and he's already an independent investigator who was appointed by Trump. Any comments now?
I know your position on the special counsel, on the president's son, on any of those related issues, but I have picked up some frustration from some of the president's advisors that it ended up in a special counsel situation. What's your read? What is the president thinking right now?
So first of all, Phil, we missed you in the briefing room. Congratulations on your on moving to New York, my home city. Really excited for you.
Get on with it.
You know our position, as you just stated, as you were asking this question of me. We're going to be very clear here. We're going to be consistent, as we have been throughout the past 2 years. The Department of Justice is independent. We do not comment on any criminal investigation as it relates to what's occurring with the former president, as it relates to Hunter Biden. We've been very clear. We refer everyone to his representatives. The president loves his son. He is proud of how his son is rebuilding his life. And as far as anything specific about any investigation, any criminal investigation, we just are going to be consistent and just not comment.
I do want to ask you about the Inflation Reduction Act, about to turn 1, I think, tomorrow. The thing
it's today, Phil.
Is it today?
It's today.
It's, the year just flew by.
Great job. Yeah, your Inflation Reduction Act, that is not doing anything to inflation. Inflation is going down, really? Are our prices lower than they were? I don't think so. Inflation is not going up as fast, and they're doing victory laps because they're delusional. All right, so Kev McCarthy, who has been in charge of the House of Representatives for a little while now, who really likes to talk a lot. I mean, this guy delivers sound bites like one day after another. They're pretty good sound bites. Here's one of them. We'll see if anything comes of it, but here's at least a soundbite for us.
About the pay to play for the Bidens, we didn't know all of what transpired, but what do we know now? Now, having followed and pulled on the strings, we now know that the Biden family created 20 shell companies when Joe Biden became vice president. We know that the Biden family got 16 of the 17 payments from Romania while he was still vice president. The president told us he had nothing to do with the Biden family's workings, but now we found out through the partner just last week that no, he literally called in. He had dinners, and after the dinners, the Biden family got a new Porsche. They got $3.5 million wired to them. So things seem to be happening here. We also found out where President Biden told us that his family got no money from China. We now know that, yes, they did get money from China. We now know that the FBI, from one of their most prominent informants, was warned that they were told a number of years ago that they had to bribe Joe Biden. So this just raises a lot of questions. We now know that Attorney General Garland has said one thing in the investigation of Biden, but the IRS whistleblowers say something else happened. So what we're trying to find is who lied and what are all the truths?
Well, we hope you do something about it, because a lot of people are lying and we're learning a lot more about the truth, but there need to be consequences for it. No? Well, here is what Byron Donald says about David Weiss.
What's happening here is that Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice are in violation of their own protocols. Special counsels are supposed to come from outside the Department of Justice. Listen, David Weiss has been at this thing for 3-4 years now, and he comes up with this lame plea deal where they try to stick a FARA violation into it. Like, this is what's wrong. So putting him in charge is the wrong thing to do. If you're going to do a special counsel, they have to come from outside the Department of Justice. Like, where's John Durham? Put him in charge of this thing.
Yeah, how could as a conservative, how could you have faith in this special counsel when this man is the one who concocted the sweetheart deal as it related to the gun charges?
Well, it's more than that. His office also didn't allow the IRS agents who have now gone on and whistleblown in this situation. They didn't allow them to get location data on the famous WhatsApp text message of, I'm sitting with my dad, where's our money, we're never going to forget this stuff. They couldn't even do normal investigative processes under David Weiss. Now he's going to be the guy who's going to have all the power to bring Hunter Biden to justice. And by the way, any other American that didn't pay taxes like this, you would be in jail. They try to give him a misdemeanor slap on the wrist.
And what do you say? Yeah, and a diversion that immunizes him for the more serious crimes, literally structuring LLCs and transacting to hide money from the IRS, all while getting sports cars and stuff from foreign business people on the back of his daddy's quid pro quo phone calls. So the whole thing is just one right after another, but we're asking ourselves, are you guys going to do anything about it? You're in Congress. Comer posted this on Twitter. He says, the selection of David Weiss as special counsel for the Biden investigation is an attempt to stonewall what Congress is doing. It's like, yes, we know. And it's going to take, what, years for them to come to a conclusion? And what's their conclusion going to be? Is David Weiss going to come to a different conclusion than the one he already did? He already signed off on a plea deal that had immunity built in. So what's he going to come up with now, a couple of years from now? Something different than that? Comer says the DOJ is now scrambling to run cover. Our investigation will not be deterred and we will continue to produce evidence. So, all right, we sure hope so.
Exactly the Biden.
We sure hope so,
right.
James.
Well, this is another example of the Department of Justice stonewalling and obstructing our investigation. I've been complaining about this for months, but yet we continue to deliver evidence that shows of massive Biden wrongdoing and more evidence that shows Joe was right front and center in this from day one. What this does today, it protects David Weiss from coming in front of the committee, which is fine. This is an investigation about Joe Biden. I don't think we need any more evidence to show that the Department of Justice is trying to obstruct our investigation. I think Merrick Garland made that argument for us today.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to follow the money. We're going to continue to interview witnesses that we know have firsthand knowledge of what exactly the Bidens were doing to receive the millions and millions of dollars from bad actors in bad countries around the world, and what role Joe played in this scheme. And that's what's important to every American, what role Joe played in this scheme, because we believe that we have a president of the United States that's compromised because of the millions and millions of dollars his family's taken in.
Now, Congressman, Dana Bash over at CNN mentioned you today when discussing the Hunter Biden probe and the connections to Joe Biden himself. Watch.
So far, there is no evidence. James Comer, the head of this committee, told my colleague Jake Tapper yesterday, pretty much admitted that they don't have evidence to show that Joe Biden did anything wrong.
Congressman, your response to that?
I pretty much didn't admit that. I pretty much admitted the evidence shows Joe Biden lied to the American people when he said he had never spoken to any of these people about anything, where Joe Biden was meeting with these people. We have emails, we have text messages, we have pictures, we have travel logs, we have travel records. We have sworn testimony from Devin Archer, who was front and center in a couple of these shell companies, that Joe Biden communicated with these people, in fact, communicated with every single person who wired to Biden millions and millions of dollars. He even had dinner on more than one occasion with these individuals, which we didn't know. So Joe Biden lied when he said his family never got money while he was vice president. He lied when he said his family never got money from China. And he lied when he said he never communicated with any of these crooks who were sending his family the millions and millions of dollars. So we've proven over and over again that Joe Biden lied. What I think the evidence shows is Joe Biden was front and center in this from day one. Devin Archer said.
They constantly want to forget about all of that, though. They just think that we should only have direct deposits into Joe Biden's bank account. That's the evidence that they want. They want like a check from Joe, with his signature on it or something like that, which I don't think we're ever going to see. But they ignore all of this other evidence and they just say it doesn't exist.
What they were doing, because we want to know, what did they do to receive the millions and millions of dollars?
Nothing.
Devin Archer said they were selling the brand, and the brand was Joe Biden.
Congressman, will you commit tonight to calling David Weiss to testify before Congress despite this appointment?
Absolutely. Of course we will. We're not going to stop. This is just another day in the office for us leading this investigation of Biden corruption. They have obstructed every step of the way. They've intimidated our witnesses. Look, when Devin Archer was set to come in on Monday morning, the DOJ sent him a letter Saturday and a letter again Sunday. That's never happened before. Never has the Department of Justice sent a letter on a weekend, and they send two on two separate days for the sole purpose of intimidating him. They have intimidated every one of our witnesses. The Biden legal team, Abby Lowell and company, they have more than crossed the line of witness intimidation. You saw what the legal team did in the Delaware court, trying to intimidate another person to take something off the website. There's example after example of obstruction. But, Laura, we're going to continue to move forward with this investigation.
All right, so they're going to continue, and I think there is a lot there. They have probably just mounds of stuff that they're working through. I know I'm as frustrated as everybody that it feels like one side is taking major blows at the other side, while our side is just kind of like tap dancing and twiddling their thumbs, hanging out, waiting to get mowed over. But I think this is a slow process. We've got a lot of road ahead. Representative Comer seems like he's on it, and he's continuing to dig. I think the truth will eventually be revealed. Hunter's lawyers are playing coy, but they got busted, and this whole thing deviated, which is why all of this is happening. It's very reactionary. They wanted to go squeeze this thing through and make it all go away. They failed. Now this is panic mode, and we're seeing it. We're going to continue to cover it, my friends. Thank you for subscribing as we do. Thank you for inviting somebody to come over and join us as we hit these live streams, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered some Hunter Biden stuff. We got the Trump DMs, which have now been gobbled up according to the feds. We've got Mark Meadows removing to federal court, and we'll see what the federal judge does about that one. Trump will probably be filing one in tow. And then we had an update on the scheduling. So apparently they're going to be trying to schedule Trump trial in March, which is right around the Georgia primary. What a coincidence. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about all of this. I appreciate your very loving and generous donos in the house. Reminder, before we jump into those, we've got a brand new website where you can get access to everything we just talked about on this mind map, all the PDFs, all the clips, all the links to the websites, all available, robertgovea.com. You can click over on the website, sign up for the newsletter right here, read the daily reports on all the stuff we're covering here right on this reports section. Get our daily newsletter in your inbox so you never miss anything, all at robertgovea.com. All right. And so now let's see what you have to say about this, my friends. And this morning we had a very generous dono courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the Man. And so we missed this one as we were wrapping up. Dolphin, thanks for sending that in on our members only stream this morning. We had some good times. Good fun stuff over there. And we appreciate you, Dolphin. We had another one. All right, let's make sure I've got my screens open. And here. Where are we at? All right, this is DDH became a supporter. Welcome aboard, DDH, into our amazing community. We have another one from Dolphin Fan is the Man. We got Ann Acism, Carol R, Sup Forest G's coming in, Laura L. We had Starlit S all coming in, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the Man in the house. And thank you very much, Dolphin Fan, for bringing everybody in. All right, there we are. All right, I was a little off keister over here. There it is. There's Dolphin Fan is the Man. Thank you, Dolphin. We got new membos coming in. And Voice of the People is here. Says the indictment leak was to cover up the FBI whistleblower that backed up the IRS whistleblower Shapley story. It was done purposefully for reporters to find. That's curious. Yeah, there was the unnamed FBI agent. They the House Oversight Committee released the transcript. The FBI whistleblower confirms Shapley's story. So it's like two agencies now confirm the same story. But that's not enough evidence for them over there in the media. It's very coincidental. A lot of coincidences happening here. We got Calahero 3030 is here. Says it's a setup. They want Trump supporters to begin amassing protesting to push the insurrectionist image and use it to further their agenda. I agree with that. I think that they would love something to happen. If they could cause a big, August 17th, whatever new date they want to come up with, they would do it. They're already saying it's happening without it even happening. They're already doing it. They're already saying, homegrown domestic violent extremists are a great threat to America. We're like, where? What are you talking about? That's not what we see. That's not what we see happening in Walgreens. But okay. TL is here as a new supporter. Good to see you, TL. Welcome aboard. Don't forget to grab the Telegram link, which is in the community tab section on YouTube. We're going over there for our after party on the day. Thank you, TL, for joining. We got a bad poet says seditious conspiracy charges for Fani and the DNC. Why not? I think there should be a RICO charge against Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, Joe Biden, Lisa Monaco, Matthew Graves, Alvin Bragg, Letitia Tishy James, and Big Fani Willis, all of them, for trying to racketeer, to collude, to stop an election. And throw Joe Biden in there on the list too while we're at it. Hey, Jameson is here. Says prosecutor Rachel Rollins is a Hatch Act violation. She's just a walking Hatch Act violation. I don't know who that is. Jameson, but that's funny. Is she making statements? Rosie Posey on locals. Rosie says, just curious, why has the saying at the end of the day become the thing to say? It's everywhere. Is it just me? At the end of the day. I don't know. Have I been saying that a lot or something? Sometimes I'll catch myself with my safety words, to protect me when I don't know what to say. I always default back into certain phrases. We all do that. But, at the end of the day, it's a great question, Rosie. I'm not sure how to answer that. When all's said and done, hopefully somebody will answer at the end of the day. All right. That's another one from Rosie. Thank you, Rosie. A Bad Poet says, new precedents abound, break the grand jury seals. I agree with that. I love that. Yeah, A Bad Poet. Why not? Let us see everything. If this is all legitimate and above board, why don't we just see what happened at the grand jury proceedings? We'd love to see it. From A Bad Poet. Molly Dolly says, people are saying Trump would have an easier campaign if he had conceded gracefully. Do you think they would have found other things to indict him on? Yes, I do, personally. Yeah, I don't think J6 was the final thing. I mean, they wanted J6. I think, truthfully, I think they might have tried to get him on the Whitmer plot. They would have gotten him on something. They wanted the Whitmer plot to be Trump when he said, let's liberate Michigan. Let's liberate Michigan from the big Gretch Rona. They were trying, I think the FBI has been working to set him up literally from the beginning. And I'm not making this up. I mean, they've been doing it. They used the Steele dossier, the fake PP tape, in 2016 to try to deviate him from the election. A fake tape, a fake dossier written by Christopher Steele that was literally not accurate at all, went over to the Hillary Clinton campaign. They fed it to the FBI. The FBI used it to go get a FISA warrant to spy on Trump's campaign, to find other things to indict him for that were not indictable. And then they couldn't find anything, so they impeached him. So, yeah, I think that they would have found something. And January 6th was just something that they created. And could have been Big Gretch Rona, could have been anything. They're doing whatever they can to take this guy out. And including, I think, rigging the 2020 election. I mean, they changed everything in order to get that done. So he could have conceded gracefully, I guess, and run again, and maybe they wouldn't have been able to charge him on these, but I think they would have found him on something else. They have a sickness. Like, for example, they got him on the Michael Cohen crimes. If he would have conceded in 2020, he still got prosecuted for the 2016 stuff. So they don't care. It's a great question, though, Molly. Yeah. And honestly, I think if it's Ron DeSantis or if it's Vivek, they're in big trouble, too. This is all coming for them. This is the new political style. It's not just Trump. They're using the excuse because it's Trump, but it's their new style now. Ian says they will try and find a way to televise the Trump prosecution, then an appeal, an incident, a change where cameras are shut off for the defense. So I see what you're saying. Like when there's this big reveal from the defense, the smoking gun, they just, power outage. Oh, the water main broke in the facility again. Oh no. The water main broke. We had to turn off the cameras. Yeah, probably Ian Mack. TL is here, says fast and pray. Vote with your money. Boycott big media. Mom and pop stores. Pay tax with paper checks. Sunday blue law. No buying 1 day per week. No RNC donations to candidates. Spread the truth and not just conservative sites. It's good ideas there. Yeah, I'd say vote with your money and boycott big media. Support your mom and pop stores. I think you're talking a lot about this parallel economy thing that's burgeoning up, and I think it's happening. I mean, we're watching it right now. There's going to be two different stores you can buy from. One's in alignment with your values. The other one is not in alignment with your values. Which one are you going to go with? I'm already making changes like that. So I think it's going to be happening more and more in that future. I'd rather pay a little bit more and have a little bit slower delivery, but get a better product from somebody I believe in, rather than overnight from Amazon and a company that censors and bans people. Although I still get a lot of crap from Amazon. All right. Southern Comfort says, there's a clip of Biden saying that they would stop Trump from running no matter what it takes under the law. Quote, his law. You're right, Southern. I remember it's a video clip. Yeah. And he says, they say, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? We'll stop him. He says something like under the legitimate powers of the Constitution or something like that. And what does that mean? Like the DOJ? Like you can prosecute him? Well, they're doing it. It's all on full display. Calm and Freeze here. Thanks, Calm. Says $7 for 7 months in the WTW community. Thanks for being here for 7 months, Calm and Free. We are 2 months away from a baby. It's going to be a lot of excitement. In other news, Klaus Schwab has suggested that one day everybody on the planet will be subjected to the same treatment Trump is going through. Absolute transparency, zero privacy, but, quote, if you have nothing to hide, what do you have to fear? That's what the tyrants always say. Yeah. But then their privacy is always protected. You ever notice that? Like you don't know anything about these people. They're all on a different plane. Its privacy is very important for them, but not for us. And we can trust them, though, because they care about us and they're looking out for our best interests. Thanks, Calm and Free. We got Autumn Graham says, great channel. I've always said you should be teaching in a law school. Thanks for all you do. Thanks, Autumn. Yeah, that would be an interesting experience. No doubt about it. Try to save some of these law school students. I don't know that they would have me in a law school. Law schools are very lefty, very liberal. We're like, oh, that guy? Yeah. What, the Constitution? What, do you want to teach the constitutional law class? Oh, gosh. All right. So it'd be an interesting experience, Autumn, but I thank you for the endorsement, and thanks for being here, and thanks for your first super chat on our channel. Very much appreciated. Hope you continue to join us. CFRBW over on Rumble says people need to remember that you can indict a ham sandwich, no doubt. Indictments are no different than an accusation that Trump colluded with Russia to win 2016. It's an accusation. Totally. Yeah, and he still has the presumption of innocence. I mean, or supposed to. A lot of people in the media all forget about that. They just say 91 counts. Where? All right. So did you forget about due process or the presumption of innocence or anything like that? Oh, yeah, you're just salivating because you hate Trump. Got it. Christopher Lopez is here. He says, with all the talk of Fani's out here, I'm getting a little excited. Still suffering from mild whiplash from my last ATL visit. I can contest that she doesn't have the biggest fanny, unless it's BMI. Well, that's an interesting comment, Christopher. Well, yeah. How'd you get that whiplash? What does the whiplash have to do with fannies in Georgia? That's what I'm curious about. I'm trying to figure out how that could happen. Momentum, inertia. Did you get hit with a big fanny? Dancing at the club? I don't know what happened here, but Georgia's a wild place. Yeah, I've been there. I can contest that she doesn't have the biggest fanny. I don't know. It looked pretty big to me in that picture. And also, but we're not talking about her actual fanny. What I'm talking about is her position, her status. There's nobody higher up in government in Georgia who is a bigger fanny than Fani Willis. She's the biggest fanny in Georgia. That's why. We got Gen X Boomer says, let Hunty get his deal and immunity for everything, then get him in front of Congress, forcing him to talk, as it doesn't violate the Fifth Amendment per the deal. Meaning he has to answer all the questions about his dad. Oh, gosh, I like it. So you say, let's get Hunter on our side and turn him. You want to turn Hunter so he goes against Daddy President. I'm not sure if that would work or not, but I like the strategy. Sounds fun. We got Evie Cal says, thanks for being you. Eva Cal. Thank you, Eva Cal. Very generous dono. With a lovely pair with maracas. Hopefully it's not another pear he's shaking on a stick or something. That would be kind of troubling. But thank you, Eva Cal. I appreciate you very much. Gen X Booner. We got SD1985 says, I'm waiting to see the reactions when this mess backfires. It's a bag of garbage. I think you're right about this. It might turn. We might have a big wedge. What if Trump just says, I'm not doing what the judge ordered me to do? do something about it. Could be fun. All right, we got this one from Southern Comfort. Remember what they're always doing. The 3 Ds: deflect, deny, and delay. Deflect, deny, and delay. I like that one. Yeah. They're always doing it, and they're always accusing the other side of doing the very things that they are doing. Fred Pedamonte says, Republicans, blah, 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 blah. Thank you, Fred. I think you're right. There is a lot of talking. We're hoping at some point there is some action, but we'll see. We got Tree Bark 09 over on Locals. Thank you, Tree Bark, and welcome. Welcome into our chat. Looks like a new name. Says, another great show. I'd love to see a Trump Govea ticket 2024. I'm in, baby. I'm ready to serve. Trump, let's make it happen. What do I need to do? I'll start running. All right, I have to start a campaign. I'll start running. All right, it's fine. I'll get a tie. I'll go out there. I'll go throw blows for Trump. Let's do it, baby. All right, thanks for the endorsement, Tree Bark. We got Cool Frog became a supporter over on YouTube. Welcome aboard, Cool Frog. Jump over to the community tab section and grab the Telegram link because we're going to head there for our members only after party. Oh, I see. So this one is from Salty. Says the new insurrectionists will be found at the PTA meetings and at Granny's bingo night at the church. Yeah. Well, we already saw a lot of that during the COVID era. Yeah. FBI labeled teachers as threats, and they shut down the churches because the Christians were going to be killing each other, spreading COVID, and the Jews and everybody and the Muslims. They shut us all down. Yeah. So Salty, they're already playing that game. Starlight in the house says it's all smoke and mirrors. Trump must push back so hard, get the evidence, and expose them all. Yeah, why would, if the entire institution is illegitimate, why would Trump sit around and sort of, play games like it's legitimate? Oh, yeah, no, this is great. Yes, thank you, Miss Fani. Thank you. Your prosecution is legitimate. I'll show up and respect you. Wrong. Jameson says, Rachel Rollins resigned due to a Hatch Act. Big deal. Is she back on this prosecution? That would be my next follow-up question. Rosie Posey says, LOL, it's everywhere. It's on the news and podcasts, and even my hubby and coworkers say it. At the end of the day, the other thing that a lot of people will say is, it's at the tip of my tongue. It is what it is. A lot of people say that. It is what it is. Yeah, it is what it is. When all is said and done, at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's all we can say. That's all we can say. All right, thanks, Rosie. We have another one from Trust2 Kids. Says, hey, Rob, another great stream. Thanks. Thanks, Trust2 Kids. I appreciate it. And thanks for watching us over on Rumble. We're grateful for our Rumble friends and our Rumble support. We got Pan-Seared Ribeye says, the only reason they aren't indicting Silk is because Diamond died and did all the talking. Yeah, rest in peace, Diamond. Gosh, I know that was a horrible thing. Yeah, I mean, are they going to go after other commentators? Like pure commentators? Be sick. Probably. We're getting ready for it. All right. So a bad poet says, RICO and seditious conspiracy for the win. They get the J6 treatment. Yeah, look, if Republicans get back in charge, I expect to see massive prosecutions. Those are the rules. They set the rules. We didn't set the rules. So, all right, we'll just see if that happens. Estella Hansen in the house. Estella, thank you so much for the very first super chat from Estella H. Amazing. Thanks for supporting the work. Thanks for the very generous dono. And we hope to see you back here again. We got Bodidia says on Locals, if they plan to use the election to get rid of Trump in 2020, then that means they knew the pandemic was coming or they instigated it. If they planned, well, I don't know if we can say that they I think, let me say that they exploited it. I think that's the right word. Is that, and they did. I mean, there were death count scoreboards all over the country. Remember that? When Trump was running, it was death, red counters of death, red death. Oh, 800,000, 900,000, dying. Then as soon as Trump lost, and the vaccines came out and everybody was getting jabbed all over the place. Joe Biden got his jab. Kamala got her jab. Remember all that? Then suddenly, all of the news media, all of the chyrons and the little stupid death counters, they all turned to green. Remember that? And then it went to like, how many people vaccinated all of a sudden? It's like 1 million vaccinated, 2 million vaccinated. This many. You go, what on earth? So it went from a red scoreboard of death, then Trump loses in November, then suddenly it's a saving America thanks to this new treatment or whatever it was. You go, what on earth? So yeah, I think that they did exploit it, and it was a big justification. They exploited it to also change the election rules, Bodidia, right? So the pandemic came up, and then they just, we got to change the rules because of my pandemic, and then everything changed, and the secretaries of states could do whatever they wanted, and the judges just rubber stamped everything. Great comment, Bodidia. Bodidia. Is that right? Bodidia. All right. I'll keep working on it. We got 51K says, and welcome, says, I saw a tweet or an X or whatever by an attorney here in Maricopa County who said she was removed from RICO for being too young despite practicing law for 10 years. Yes, I know who you're talking about. How is this that this guy's a judge for 6 months presiding over such a monumental case? It's a good question. I don't know. We're going to see. Yeah, we're going to see. It's like, all right. I mean, he's a judge, so I guess you're a judge. It's like if you're a lawyer, you go in there and you do the thing. Although, like they don't put you on a murder trial. Like you've got to be murder capital case certified. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do about it. But thanks for being here over on Locals. 51K. We got B-Man says Jack Smith has all those missing J6 files. I'm sure he does. And probably put him in the shredder already. We got Rocky says, thanks again, Rob. Best in class and much appreciated. Thank you, Rocky Water. Always so generous over on the Locals. Appreciate you being here. We got CFRBW on Rumble says, don't forget Chuck Schumer. Says, you take on the intelligence community. They got 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you. By the way, it's Christian Fellowship, Rob. Okay. Christian Fellowship, Rob White. Oh, shout out. Okay. I'll try to remember that. I'll just call you Rob. Shout out to Rob. Thanks, Rob, for the dono. We got this one from Flash River on Local. Says, we have collectively borne witnesses to instances of election interference orchestrated through influential conduits on online platforms. Facebook, Google, pre-X, Twitter. The shadowy involvement extends its reach, spanning the domains of the DOJ, the FBI, even individuals formerly aligned with the 51 intelligence community. Yeah, the ex-CIA people. What new surprises can we expect per election interference? Well, I would imagine a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the same suppression efforts for Republicans. Like, remember, in Arizona, we had, on election day, we had, a third or half of the balloting machines just not work on election day when Kari Lake is supposed to have all of her people turn out. So I imagine there'll be more of that, and they'll say, oh, it's all harmless error. It's all minor stuff, not that big of a deal. And we'll have more censorship. I'm sure Facebook will censor. I'm waiting for YouTube to do the YouTube thing in 2024. I'm sure that's coming. So all the same stuff and more, and they'll probably even go harder this time because now they've got 4 indictments and a lot more to lose if Trump wins. So brace yourselves, my friends. We'll be braced here. Thank you for that one, Flash. Another one from Randy Brandel says, is there a statute of limitations on treason, aka Russian collusion? Great show, Rob. Thanks. I don't know the answer to that question. I would imagine that there is. It's probably codified under U.S. code. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. But for Russian collusion, like if you're saying, are they going to, there are some crimes that don't have statute of limitations, right? There are crimes that do not. So I don't know what under the federal code, what they say about that. But here for Russian collusion, I don't think there's enough evidence for that. So I think, Randy, are you asking whether they could prosecute Trump still for Russian collusion? I don't know that there's enough there. I mean, I don't think there's any evidence of that. And the thing that protects Trump on that is really the Mueller report, which doesn't conclude that he was involved in colluding with the Russians. He says that they did some, ads and they attempted to interfere the Russians, but not that Trump was colluding with them. So can they charge him? I don't think so, because even their own DOJ has found that there's nothing there. But on the treason statute, that's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know. And I'm more interested in that for not Trump, but for other political people. Spuds gifted 5 membos. Thank you, Spuds. Who's coming in? Wendy C., Floyd J., Barb B., Gay is here along with Pablo C. All gifted membos courtesy of Spuds in the house. Thank you, Spuds. And our YouTube members, don't forget to grab the Telegram link, which is where we're going to go for our members only after party here in a minute. We got Rob's in the house. Christian Fellow says, so if criticize the intelligence community, the government, and they have to get you, sounds like Marxist banana republic to me. Yeah, the fact that Chuck Schumer would say something like that and be serious about it is very troubling. And that full clip is very troubling. He goes on. He's like, yeah, no, they'll take you out. And wait, what? You're okay with that, Chuck? Chris D is here. Thank you, Chris. Says, thanks, Robert. Smiley face says, I appreciate what you do. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you back. Thank you so much for donos today, for sending that in to support our work. Thanks for being here. We got this one from Salty over on Rumble. Says, no more Queensberry rules. Frustrate their fraud. Get to elderly care facilities, audit graveyards, and force the clearing of the voter rolls. Find their bought and paid for grassroots efforts. There's going to be, I hope, a lot more investigations into this. We read through the full police report here. If you missed that video, it was a wild one, about the investigation in Michigan, where there was one woman allegedly taking in 10,000 ballots and just dropping them off at the clerk's office. And we don't know how many, that was not successful, but how many of the other drop-offs were successful. Good to see you, Salty. We got this one from Barb Loves Alaska on Rumble. Says, I'm waiting for a President Trump post on True Social that he doesn't do DMs and never has. And I have a question about that. Yeah, I mean, Trump is a paper guy, like through and through. And I think people, when they bring him his media pack, okay, it's all printouts and stuff. So I don't even know that he was posting his own tweets, like typing them out. Maybe he was. I mean, we have Kofefi and stuff like that. Who knows? But we know that Karine posts for Joe Biden and probably writes them. So maybe there was a similar type of setup there, which would immunize Trump, would create some arm's length distance for him. Thank you, Barbs. We've got this one. Says, we got 2 of those. Perfect. We got S. McGee says, Republicans have to impeach Merrick Garland. Selecting David Weiss as special counsel proves he didn't have the power to indict. Legit, no other option. I agree with you on that. I mean, I think he lied to us. I think Biden lied to us. The Democrats want to point to, a check receipt or a direct deposit or something like that. He literally lied to us, like Joe Biden lied to us about all of the things. And okay, shouldn't somebody be responsible for that, for those lies? I don't know. We'll see. We got Vientikis says MAGA jabs, warp speed injections, and trust me, bro, sauce for all, from Vientikis. Meter is over on Rumble, became a monthly supporter on Rumble. Welcome aboard, Meter. All right, now I have to figure out what that means exactly. Can we do member-only streams on Rumble too? That's a curious thing. Can they do that? I don't know that we can do that yet, but that's probably coming. That's very cool. All right, thank you for joining us. Meter 2 over on Rumble. Welcome. And if you join as a member on Rumble and you want our private Telegram link, send me an email and I'll give it to you. All right, Pinochet's helicopter tours. Do you have proof, exculpatory evidence the government did not instigate the pandemic? I look forward to the government's exoneration through discovery. No, I don't have any proof of that at all. And I also look forward to the government's exoneration. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, if the government is so innocent about everything that they do, they can just present us the evidence and they can exonerate themselves. Like they could tell us that the CIA didn't actually kill JFK. Just release the documents and we'll all see for ourselves, right? Or wrong, because the documents might implicate them. Yeah, the government is usually responsible. It's almost a rarity that they are exonerated. Bonnie says on the locals, but this time crime is up. Everyone is poorer and deeper in debt. Immigration is out of control. Sending money to Ukraine. Hopefully they'll take it out on Biden. Yeah, that's a great point, Bonnie. I think you're right about this. It's like when it was Trump versus Biden last time, things were good. So everybody thought that things could get better. So that's why they went with Biden. They're like, well, maybe things will get better because Trump is a little abnormal. This feels a little bit strange to us. So maybe we'll go back to normality. But then things got dramatically worse. And so now people are saying, oh, well, maybe we'll go back over to Trump this time. Like a lot of people, I think, have buyer's remorse. We got Rocky Water says, Rob, agree. The Witmer plot was one of the likely many backup plans, like the pipe bomber, etc. Right, all sorts of stuff was ready to go. The pipe bomber, that's another great point, Rocky. I forgot about that one. Yeah, so even if there was nothing, they were going to blow something up. Also, I'd love for Trump to read Schumer's words back to him on Inauguration Day as a reminder. Yeah, right after he fires everybody at the FBI. Super cool. All right, good comments, Rocky. Yeah, and the pipe bomber is a great concept on that one. We got some people. Cool Frog joined over on Telegram, and Teresa joined over on Telegram. Amazing. Welcome aboard. And so those are our friends who join up as members. We do have a members only after party, which is where we're going right now. Hey, Meter's over on Locals too. Thank you, Meter. Well, thanks for joining up over on Rumble too. Greatly appreciate it. And we are doing our Locals meetup. It's happening right now after the show. We also do member-only morning streams in the morning. So if you'd like to join us as we have a little bit extra fun, check out watchingthewatchers.locals.com or join up as a YouTube member. Either way, we're going over for our after party. RobertGovea.com if you want to access the mind map or get any other PDFs or any other case files. Don't forget to grab your Field of Greens, courtesy of our friends at fieldofgreens.com. Code Robert will help you save. And the vegetables, they want to be eaten. They're good for you. They're bursting out of the ground. They're like, eat me, man, eat me. All right. Shout out to our mods and our meme smiths who mod down the fort for us, starting at the bottom today. Big shout outs to our friends. John McGarvey, Donut Mind Me, Dog Digger, Janek 909, John Allen's in the house, Zach Nichols, Beyond Geostars, our friend Zulu, Ronnie Cole, Playin' Hooky, Just Cause, K-Beans in the house, along with our friend Vientikis Prime. All in the house. And so want to thank our meme smiths as well. Before we wrap it up on the day, shout out to Sleepy Dog Lee, our friend Geegum Geegum, and Nathan N810. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. And so we will leave it right there. We're going to come back tomorrow. It's going to be a beautiful Thursday. There will be a lot of business to attend to. And so we hope to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.